ODE because I don't even have a CD-ROM, but for those of you who do not want to give up your CD-ROM functionality, you do not have to. Now, the only downside is that the only way to get in here and to flip that switch would be to disassemble this thing again, and that is a little inconvenient, I'm not going to lie. But it is nice to not have to give up the CD-ROM in order to use an optical drive emulator. Okay, but before we do all that, we're going to take our ribbon cables that came with the optical drive emulator and we're going to go ahead and install them. And by install, I mean literally slot them in. So we want to slot in the ribbon cables that are going to go to the 3DO console right there. So these are going to go where the CD-ROM was actually plugged into. The CD-ROM ribbon cables that we unplugged will now plug into here. And it really is as simple as just sliding the ribbon cables in until they're in there snugly. So basically, if you pull just a little bit, it shouldn't come right out. Same thing over here with the little one, just a nice snug fit. That's what we're looking for. Just like that. Okay, now we just take these ribbon cables and we're going to slot them into the console itself. Just a nice gentle fit. It shouldn't be very difficult. There's the first one. And there's the second one. Okay, and it is a little awkward to work with. We're going to slot the CD-ROM ribbon cables into the CD-ROM slots on the optical drive emulator. Same thing. It's just a gentle slide in until it's nice and snug in there. Okay, and we are connected. Gonna go ahead and get this slotted in there. And to be honest, the tension from the ribbon cables is actually gonna hold it in place pretty nicely. So there's no additional screws or anything that need to be implemented here in order to get that in. And with my USB stick here, I'm gonna slot the SD card in there. That's gonna have all the games loaded onto it. And then we'll just put the case covering back on. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and slot my micro SD card in here now that everything's installed, and we're gonna go ahead and hook this guy up and see if everything's working before I reassemble. Okay, so we are all hooked up here. Let's power it on and see what happens. And first thing that happens, I was dropped right into the menu, and Games USA is where my folders are stored, and look at that. And there we go, we got Doom up and running. There's Doom and all that 3D glory. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and reassemble this. I've already got the top back on. We are actually not going to reinstall this shield because the optical drive emulator now blocks the ability to screw that in. So we're just gonna leave that off and we're just gonna reassemble the top here. So with the power of TikTok magic, it's fully reassembled, and now I have a Panasonic 3DO with an optical drive emulator fully installed.